Chapter 4, Musical Scales Basics. What is the scale? A scale is a set of musical notes arranged in order by a particular pitch. A pitch is a measure of how high or low a musical note is. The unit by which the pitch is measured and communicated is called hertz. A note which vibrates at 261 hertz is caused by sound waves that vibrate at 261 times per second. This is the pitch that occurs on middle C on the piano. Pitch is often confused with frequency, which is a measure of how sound changes and its possible pitches. Pitch is also often confused with a note, but notes are names pitches. For example, a pitch of 440 hertz is called note A. A note can also refer to an occurrence of a pitch. For example, a pitch of 880 hertz, 440 hertz played twice, is called A5. A scale can be ordered by increasing pitch. This is called an ascending scale. A scale can also be ordered by decreasing pitch. This is called a descending scale. Scales can also be ordered with different pitches that alternately ascend and descend. This last type of scale is called a melodic minor scale. The scale that most people are familiar with is called the C major scale. This is because it starts at the middle C on the piano and progresses up the white keys of the keyboard until the notes of C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and eventually C again have been covered. This is a complete octave from middle C. The C major scale is typically the first scale a beginner pianist learns, but there are many more other scales. With 12 notes and various patterns for each one, there is a great number of scales that are possible. Different types of scales contain unique sounds and different numbers of notes. The variation in sound is due to variations in the patterns of intervals between the notes in each scale. Benefits of playing scales. Many great pianists attribute their success to practicing scales on a daily basis. The world-renowned pianist Ignacy Jan Paderewski claims to have practiced scales 12 hours a day. He developed the habit when he studied under the guidance of master pianist Theodore Leschetizky. Playing scales are beneficial in many ways, including aiding in developing the knowledge of keys, aiding in developing the awareness of tonality, helping improve knowledge of keyboard geography, aiding in increasing finger speed, aiding in developing finger strength, aiding in developing coordination between the two hands, aiding in developing effective thumb movement, aiding in developing muscle memory, encouraging creativity as it helps a pianist improvise, aiding in developing the musical ear, helping in developing a stronger sense of articulation, timing, and rhythm, aiding in developing confidence in piano playing abilities. Scale degrees. The word scale is derived from the Latin word ladder. As a result, you can think of a scale to be represented by a ladder. Each step, note, is represented by a degree. There are 8 degrees. There are first, tonic. The first scale degree is the most stable note, the easiest note in the scale to remember, and is considered the tonal center. Because of this stability, most musical pieces end with a tonic. The tonic has a ring of finality to it that is good for wrapping up a piece. Second, supertonic. This is one step up from tonic. Third, median. This note is the median between the tonic and the subdominant notes. Fourth, subdominant. This note is called the lower dominant because of its position before the dominant note. This note does not hold as much importance as the dominant note in an ascending scale. Fifth, dominant. This note has the second most important function after the tonic. Sixth, submedian. This is a lower class median because of its position between the 8th note, the other tonic, and the subdominant. Seventh, leading tone. This note is the most unstable note in the scale and does not have the intensity that tonic does. This is why it is not commonly used to end a musical piece. It goes by 2 names, leading note or subtonic. This name depends on the type of scale being used. The leading name tone is used when there is a half step between this note and the 8th note. The name subtonic is used when a natural minor scale, which we will go more into depth with soon, is used. This scale has the 7th degrees, being a whole step before the tonic. The 8th degree is also a tonic. The difference lies in it being an octave higher. Types of scales. An easy way of learning the types of scales that exist is by grouping them according to the number of pitch classes they contain. This listing includes chromatic scales. According to the American musical theorist and musicologist Alan Forte, the chromatic scale is a series of half steps which comprises all the pitches of our 12-tone, equal-tempered system. Just as this definition dictates, this type of scale takes in all the notes found within an octave. All the black and white keys in one octave on a piano are found in the chromatic scale. As such, this scale is not used a great deal in musical pieces. Rather, as it takes in the entire collection of 12 notes, it is more useful in teaching and practicing. The tones of the chromatic scale are all the same distance apart, which is a 1/2 step. This is a difference from major or minor scales. Even though this scale is not typically used in musical pieces, it has been used to create entire compositions, because of its independence from the major and minor scales. The scale gives a sense of tension and motion. As such, it is great at inducing strong emotions like grief, loss, and sorrow. Octatonic scales. Commonly used in jazz and modern classical music, this scale contains 8 notes per octave. This scale most often occurs as a symmetrical scale that is composed of whole and half steps. This scale is also called the octatonic collection. Its earlier records can be seen in Edmond de Poulenac's unpublished treatise Étude sur les successions alternates des tons et demi-tones, et sur la gamme dite majeur mineur. This was created in 1879. Heptatonic scales. This scale contains 7 notes per octave. It is also called the 7-note scale. It is often used in Western art music, but can also be found in music originating from African and American Indian music. The scale resembles medieval mode, and as such is also found in European folk music. Hexatonic scales. Also a commonly used scale in Western folk music, this scale contains 6 notes per octave. This is also called a 6-note scale. The 11th century Italian theorist Guido de Arezzo identified 3 hexatonic scales built of whole and half-step intervals. He called them hexachords. His theories provided the practical foundation for the training of late Middle Ages and Renaissance singers. Pentatonic scales. This is also called the 5-tone scale or the 5-note scale. It is called such because it contains 5 different notes per octave. This scale of music has ancient roots and represents an early stage of musical development. As such, this scale is commonly used in folk music, blues, metals, and country music. It is especially prominent in Asian music. There are 2 types of pentatonic scales. They are the Hemitonic scales, which contain half steps, and those without half steps called Hemitonic scales. Tetratonic, tritonic, and ditonic scales. These scales are not common in Western music and are considered prehistoric scales. The tetratonic scale contains 4 notes per octave. The tritonic scale contains 3 notes per octave. The diatonic scale contains 2 notes per octave. Monotonic scales. This scale contains 1 note per octave. It is used in liturgy and for effects in modern art music limitedly. Other ways of classifying scales. Scales can be classified apart from the number of different pitch classes they contain. One of the ways is by grouping them according to their constituent intervals. Their constituent intervals can be described as being hemitonic and hemitonic. Hemitonic scales contain 1 or more half steps, and hemitonic scales do not contain half steps. It is a whole tone scale. Scales can also be described by their symmetry. Symmetry can be described as being palindromic, chiral, or rotational. Musical symmetry is described at a set of transformations, which, when applied in some way to music, leave some distinguished aspect of that music relatively unchanged. Major and minor scales. These are 2 most frequently played scales for piano players. You can create a major or minor scale by starting with any note on the piano. Each of the types of scales listed above has a major and a minor version. These are both variations of the diatonic scale. This is a musical scale containing 5 whole steps and 2 half steps in each octave. In the diatonic scale, The two half steps are separated from each other by 2 or 3 whole steps. This system ensures that even when the scale spans more than one octave, the half steps are separated from each other by at least 2 whole steps. The diatonic pattern for the major scale looks like this: whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. On the other hand, the diatonic pattern for the minor scale looks like this: whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole, whole. As you can see, the major and minor scale half steps are either separated by either 2 or 3 whole steps. The difference in the major and minor scales lies in which notes the half steps affect. In major scales, half steps appear after the 3rd and 7th notes, while in minor scales, half steps follow the 2nd and 5th notes. Apart from this difference, the other properties that make the major and minor scale different are the position of the 3rd notes, the location of each scale's intervals, the moods of each scale. The 3rd note position. This is the note that reveals whether or not a scale is major or minor. This note is what determines if notes will sound brighter, as is the case with major scales, or darker, as with minor scales. This contrast is created because the minor 3rd note is one lower than the major 3rd note. The minor 3rd note is described as being flat. To flat a note means that it is lowered by one note. Therefore, the minor 3rd is always flatted, meaning that it is one note lower than the major 3rd. Major and minor scale intervals. An interval describes the distance between 2 notes. An interval is created between any pair of notes. Each interval has a unique name. Some intervals even carry more than one name. This uniqueness extends to the sound that each interval creates. The half step is the unit of measure for intervals and is the smallest distance between 2 notes. Half steps work the same way, starting on any note. The notes of a scale can be arranged in ascending order or descending order based on pitch. When a scale is created in ascending order, the notes are arranged in a pitch that is higher than the last one. On the other hand, when scales are descending, the notes are arranged in a pitch that is lower than the last one. The inventor of the interval system is called Pythagoras. He was a Greek philosopher. He was also a mathematician. His discovery came from his interest in understanding the notes and scales used in Greek music. In particular, he studied the lyre. This is a Greek stringed instrument. He studied the relationship between and responses of 2 strings with the same measurement, stiffness, and thickness. He observed that the strings sounded the same when plucked. They behaved in unison and had the same pitch. They created a good sound that was considered to be consonant when they were playing together. Next, he observed strings that varied in lengths. He kept the string tautness and thickness the same as with the first experiment. When the strings of varying lengths were played together, they produced different pitches and typically sounded bad or inharmonious. Thirdly, he observed that 2 strings of particular lengths might have different pitches, but still sounded consonant instead of dissonant. This led to the man developing the system of perfect and non-perfect intervals, both of which will be discussed shortly. Intervals are marked with a number and a prefix. The number is a representation of the pitch number name. The pitch names can be A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. From the first pitch, such as beginning with F and doing a whole step to G, counts as a second interval. The 2 pitch names in this scenario are F and G. An interval with 3 pitch names is called a third. This interval pattern continues through the 8 pitch names. An interval that contains all 8 pitch names is called an octave. It is also useful to note that an interval from one pitch name to the exact same pitch name is called a unison. The prefix of the interval value is based on the characteristics of the interval. Perfect versus non-perfect intervals. Perfect intervals both have an octave and intervals that run from one pitch name to the exact pitch name, giving them one basic form. Perfect intervals are labeled P. They include fourths and fifths in the interval. The interval is also considered perfect because when this interval is played, it has a sweet tone that invokes a feeling of resolution. Intervals also come in the non-perfect variety with more than one form. The 2 most popular non-perfect intervals are called the major and minor. The major interval contains seconds, thirds, sixths, and sevenths. The major interval is labeled as M. Intervals with seconds, thirds, sixths, and sevenths can be major. The other type of non-perfect interval, minor interval, is labeled as M. They occur when a major interval is a 1/2 step lower. This occurrence is a result of either lowering the top note or raising the bottom top note. Intervals with seconds, thirds, sixths, and sevenths can be minor. Other types of non-perfect intervals include augmented and diminished intervals. An augmented interval is a result of a perfect or major interval being made 1/2 step larger. The interval number does not change in this situation when this occurs. Instead, as an indication of this interval value, the augmented interval is labeled with a prefix like capital A, lowercase a, plus symbol, or aug. Augmented intervals contain seconds, thirds, sixths, and sevenths, or fourths, fifths, unisons, and octaves. The same can be said for diminished intervals. Diminished intervals result when a perfect or minor interval is made 1/2 step smaller. The interval number does not change in this situation, in this case either. Just like with augmented intervals, the interval value is marked with a label such as degree symbol or deg or a dim. The moods of major and minor. The major and minor scales are often referred to by their contrasting personalities. These two personalities are easy to pick up by ear. The major scale has a happier, more upbeat, and positive feel to it, while the minor is perceived as being sad and melancholy. Types of major scales. The major scale is also called the Ionian scale. The most famous major scale is called the C major. C major is the only type of major scale that does not sharp or flat. In keeping with the diatonic pattern for the major scale of whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, the C major scale follows this pattern. The first note played is C. The whole step from C is D. The next whole step takes you from D to E. The half step takes the player from E to F. Another whole step brings you to G. The next whole step brings you to A. One more whole step brings you to B. Finally, the last note is a half step and moves the player from B to C. As you can see from this pattern, there are no sharps or flats. C major is one of the 12 types of major scales. All the others contain sharps or flats. The major scales with sharps are A, D, E, and G. The major scales with flats are A, B, E, and F. The other type of major scales are referred to as enharmonic major scales. Remember that enharmonic stands for notes that have the same pitch but different note spelling. The major scales that are enharmonic are F sharp and G flat, C sharp and D flat, and C flat and B natural. By contrast to the C major scales, the C sharp major scales looks like this. The first note played is C sharp. The whole step from C sharp is D sharp. The next whole step takes you from D sharp to E sharp. The half step takes the player from E sharp to F sharp. Another whole step brings you to G sharp. The next whole step brings you to A sharp. One more whole step brings you to B sharp. Finally, the last note is a half step and moves the player from B sharp to C sharp. This scale has 7 sharps. The other major scales have the following patterns. A major scale has 3 sharps and a pattern of A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, and A. A flat major scale has 4 flats and a pattern of A flat, B flat, C, D flat, E flat, F, G, and A flat. B major scale has 5 sharps and a pattern of B, C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, and B. B flat major scale has 2 flats and a pattern of B flat, C, D, E flat, F, G, A, and B flat. D major scale has two sharps and a pattern of D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, and D. E major scale has four sharps and a pattern of E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, and E. E flat major scale has three flats and a pattern of E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, C, D, and E flat. F major scale has one flat and a pattern of F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, and F. F sharp major scale has six sharps and a pattern of F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B, C sharp, D sharp, E sharp, and F sharp. G major scale has one sharp and a pattern of G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G. Types of minor scales. Minor scales have a different sound to them compared to major scales. This difference is based on the different patterns of intervals. The pattern of the minor scale has a key signature because of the starting note. This leads to a different pattern of flats and sharps. A minor scale starts on the tonic and goes through the degrees of the interval pattern. There are three types of minor scales. They are called natural minor scale, harmonic minor scale, melodic minor scale. The natural minor scales contain only the notes that are found in the minor key signature. The other two minor scales are different. They include notes that are not found in the minor key signature. Let's take a look at each minor scale mentioned. Natural minor scale. This minor scale is the naturally occurring diatonic scale. It is also called the pure minor scale. It has no added accidentals, neither are the scale degrees altered from the major scale. Remember that minor scales follow the diatonic pattern of the whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole, whole. In keeping with that pattern, here are the natural minor scale sequences. C minor scale has three flats and a pattern of C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, and C. C sharp minor scale has five sharps and a pattern of C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, and C sharp. A minor scale has no sharps or flats, and a pattern of A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and A. A flat minor scale has 8 flats, and a pattern of A flat, B flat, C flat, D flat, E flat, F flat, G flat, and A flat. B minor scale has 2 sharps and a pattern of B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G, A, and B. B flat minor scale has 5 flats and a pattern of B flat, C, D flat, E flat, F, G flat, A flat, and B flat. D minor scale has 1 flat and a pattern of D, E, F, G, A, B flat, C, and D. E minor scale has 1 sharp and a pattern of E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, and E. E flat minor scale has 5 flats and a pattern of E flat, F, G flat, A flat, B flat, C flat, D flat, and E flat. F minor scale has 4 flats and a pattern of F, G, A flat, B flat, C, D flat, E flat, and F. F sharp major scale has 3 sharps and a pattern of F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D, E, and F sharp. G minor scale has 2 flats and a pattern of G, A, B flat, C, D, E flat, F, and G. Harmonic minor scale. Most times that people refer to minor scales, they are referring to the natural minor. This minor scale is almost identical to the natural minor scale, but the difference lies in a raised 7th scale degree. As a result, the harmonic C minor scale looks like C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B, and C, compared to the natural C minor scale, which looks like C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, and C. The 7th note is raised by 1/2 step, whether the scale is ascending or descending. This makes the music played feel strongly positioned on the tonic. Melodic minor scale. This minor scale has a raised 6th and 7th scale degree from the natural minor scale when the scale is ascending. This scale lowers the 6th and 7th scale degree from the natural minor scale when the scale is descending. When the scale is ascending, the 6th and 7th scale degrees are raised by a 1/2 step, but they go back to the natural minor scale when descending. Again, let's compare the C minor scales. The melodic C minor scale has a pattern of C, D, E flat, F, G, A, B, and C when going up the scale. On the other hand, when you go down the scale, natural C minor scale has a pattern on C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, and C. This type of minor scale often contains accidentals. As a result, melodic minor scales are often used by instrumentalists. Relative minor and major scales. Every major key has a relative minor key. As a result, the relative minor key for major key land on the 6th tone of the major scale. The two relatives have the same key signature. As such, the notes of major scales are the same as its relative minor. The major scales and their relative minor scales are as follows. Sharps. C major is relative to A minor. C sharp major is relative to A sharp minor. A major is relative to F sharp minor. B major is relative to G sharp minor. D major is relative to B minor. E major is relative to C sharp minor. F sharp major is relative to D sharp minor. G major is relative to E minor. Flats. C major is relative to A minor. C flat major is relative to an A flat minor. A flat major is relative to F minor. B flat major is relative to G minor. D flat major is relative to B flat minor. E flat major is relative to C minor. F major is relative to D minor. G flat major is relative to E flat minor.